Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Live, and the Real Secrets of Money with your host, myself, Damon the Agent. I'd like to thank you for joining me each and every Friday at 12 noon, where we talk about the latest real estate topics. I answer any questions that you all may have, and I always talk about a life topic or something that's been on my mind. So, as always, let's begin. Well, today I'm going to talk about the future of real estate. And the reason why I'm going to briefly talk about this subject is I've been getting questions from many people who keep asking, when is the housing market going to crash? When are prices going to go down? Because unfortunately, the prices are unaffordable for some people. Now, the reality is, and I always say what reality is, in which there have been some people who've been forecasting predictions. I want to read up on something that I saw in Forbes magazine. It said housing market forecast for 2025. U.S. housing home prices posted a 4.1% annual gain in January, up marginally from 3.9% annual growth in December. Although home prices growth continues, the pace has decelerated, with most experts expecting future further slowdowns as inventory expands and mortgage rates stay elevated. Although this home price growth slowdown won't improve affordability enough for many would-be buyers, there is a glimmer of hope as regional variations continue to make some markets more affordable than others. Now, will the housing market crash in 2025? That's a question that's been asked. With record high home prices still trending upward in many markets, you may be concerned that we're in a bubble that's primed to pop, as it did in the 2008 financial crisis. However, the likelihood of a housing market crash remains low as we look ahead to 2025. Experts are also quick to point out that today's homeowners are on much more secure footing than those coming out of the 2008 financial crisis, with many having substantial home equity. Now, let me break that down. Basically, more people today are making more money than people were nearly 20 years ago. And I always like to say that the economy coincides with the housing market. Even though right now what's currently going on in the country and also with the government laying off a lot of people, there's uncertainty amongst a lot of people. And there are people who are putting on their home, but there are also people who are buying homes. So right now the prediction goes as if, the prices are high than they were in 2020, which was only 5 years ago. And I always want to just focus on this 5 year span. If you look at what prices were in 2020 compared to today in 2025, you will find that most houses are much more than they were before. Even if we were to, let's say, have a crash, a housing market crash, okay, what will happen is even if prices drop, they're not going to drop to 2008 prices. You have to be reality on what the prices are. Nearly everything has gone up since then. If we go back to 2008, gas was cheaper, electricity was cheaper, food was cheaper, everything was cheaper, housing was cheaper. Now everything has gone up. So even when prices go down just a little bit, if it's a relief, but it still doesn't compare to those times before. So when people are looking for this crash because they're ready to jump in and buy a house, it's because the money that they have right now that they feel like, oh, I can buy a house if the prices were like they were back then. But reality, y'all, they're not. I got a phone call yesterday from a lady who found my information on HUDHomesStore.com. She said I was one of the realtors on there. So long story short, she said that she saw a home on there in which she could put $100 down. Now I asked her various questions. One of the questions I asked her was, where do you want to move to? What area are you looking to move to? She said Bowie and Upper Marlboro, Maryland. When I went onto the website, they only had a home in Oxon Hill. She doesn't want to be in that area. I explained to her that sometimes you get what you pay for. So basically, if you're looking for something relatively cheap, then you normally will have to accept the area and what's available. But if you're looking for things in specific areas, then you yourself are going to have to make some type of adjustment. I say this to say that even when it pertains to the forecast of future housing, that everyone wants something cheap, yes. But I always like to tell people today we have a lot more people who want to be investors and people who will snatch up properties quicker than regular home owners who want to live in the home. So because of that, if a price is relatively cheap, you best believe that they has many eyes on it. With the internet, with all these various websites that people can go and look at homes today and get this information, then what it does is it creates a sense of urgency, because even though when we go through a recession in this country, everyone is not struggling. And just like when the economy is doing great, everyone is not doing good. So I say that to say is you really have to do some individual personal self-evaluation to see where you are as far as your finances are concerned, to see what the projection of what you can buy or sell. Because the fact remains is, I'm sorry, I was getting a call. The fact remains is that during the housing market, whether it's up or down, whether you can buy or not shouldn't be contingent upon if the market crashes or not. It should always be contingent upon whether or not you're in a position to buy. Now, if the market crash and the prices drop, here's the thing. Everybody and their mom is going to be trying to scoop up a house. So even if prices drop, unless you willing to go over the list price, you're going to be in a very competitive market whenever prices are low. Trust me, So I'm just saying this to say that the prediction right now is because more people are financially secure than they were, you know, than they were 15, 20 years ago. It's going to be a little harder for the market to crash. You have to really watch the economy, because if we do go into a recession, that's going to have an impact on the housing market. And then that's when the market will crash, because most people won't be buying no matter how many people will be selling. So I just wanted to say that briefly so people could fully get a glimpse and understanding of that. The housing market is always contingent upon the economy. A lot of people have lost their jobs, yes, unfortunately, but there's still a lot of people who have their jobs. And you'll be surprised at the number of people that when houses go on the market, they're still buying them. There's several situations going on right now that are multiple offer situation. There's several situations going on right now today in which people want to get that house because they're in a financially good place where they can. Now, I know a lot of people are not, but this always goes back to your finances more so than when the housing market crashed. So I just say that to say that right now the prediction is we're not looking for a crash. We're looking at maybe a slowdown. Things may slow down. This is April. Let's say between now and September, things may slow down. Okay, because when we look at the housing market, we always like to look at the last 3 to 6 months and the upcoming 3 to 6 months. So between now and October, the housing market may slow down in some area. But if the house is priced right and the house shows very well, you best believe there is a buyer out there who's looking to buy. People who've saved their money, people who've been waiting for years. So that's the future of real estate. And I'll be back with my Q&A. That's my questions and answers. So if you all have any questions, please post them because I have some answers. All right, thank you, thank you. If I haven't said already, please follow me on all social media platforms: TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube. I always forget to do that live on there. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Threads. So again, if you are not following me on any of those platforms, please make sure that you follow me. So my Q&A right now, which is my question and answer, and I like to always do this because the fact that people normally have the same questions. So the first question is, what's a question most buyers never think to ask but should? What's a question that most buyers never think to ask but should? Well, I'm not going to say most buyers, but some buyers don't ask, is the price negotiable when they're making an offer? And also, how much closing cost help they can actually get. Some buyers just go in and they'll pay for this and everything based off the information they gather. They'll pay list price. Some of them don't ask for closing costs because they have the money already. What happens if an appraisal comes in low? This is question number 2. What happens if an appraisal comes in low? This is a great question. There are several things that happen if an appraisal comes low. If you are a buyer, most likely you want the appraised value. Meaning, let's say you made an offer for 500,000 and the house came in appraised at 450,000. Now you don't want to overpay for a house if you don't have to. Pre 2008, if this type of things would happen, the buyer would normally have to pay the difference. That's what was going on before the housing market crashed in 2008. Nowadays, if an appraisal comes in low, as a buyer, what you would do is you would send the seller an addendum asking for the appraised value. Because even though you might have offered 500,000, if the appraisal comes in at 450, like I said, as a buyer, you don't want to pay, you don't want to overpay when the appraisal is telling you that the house is worth 450,000. That's a great question. And then on the seller side, if an appraisal comes in low, the seller has several options. So I don't want all buyers to think that the seller just has to automatically accept the appraised value. They do not. Now, the sellers has several options that they can do. They can accept the appraised value, or they can decline the appraised value, relist the home, and not accept an offer with the same loan product that was used for the buyer who had the appraisal that came in low. For example, let's say that the house was, like I said, listed at 500,000. You made an offer for 500,000. The appraisal came in at 450,000, and the person used a conventional loan. Okay, if they decline to accept the buyer's request for accepting the offer at the appraised value and the seller decides to relist the property, they have to now accept, they cannot accept another buyer's offer with the conventional loan because that appraised value is stamped against that property for 6 months. So, meaning today's April 11th. So, that appraised value will be stamped there until October 11th. Now, they will have to accept only a FHA or VA or cash. That's the only way that a seller can maneuver around trying to get more than the actual appraised value. Now, if they have the patience and they want to wait, then they can do that. If they don't have the patience, it really puts the seller against, the wall because of the fact that now you have a lower appraisal than your offer, so you have to take less. You don't have to take less, but if you don't take the offer, then you now have to wait to see if you get another offer, and then it cannot be the same loan product because now that appraisal is stamped against that property for a conventional loan for 6 months. So that's it affects both sides. What are some red flags buyers should look out for during home tours? What are some red flags buyers should look out for during home tours? Well, there are some things such as water damage, mold, foundation issue, cracks in the walls, ceiling. These are things you want to look at during the home tour. Now, again, when you do a home inspection, it will bring up any issues that is going on with the home, especially if the buyer really wants that home. But I will also recommend checking out the neighborhood. That can be a red flag for some people. If you're really interested in that home, to drive by that home at night, in the morning, on the weekend, especially as it's getting warmer. You want to see what the neighborhood is looking like because you don't want to move into a home and then you realize you can't stand the neighborhood or whatever activity is going on. Very good questions. The next question: what do you know when it's okay to waive contingencies and when it's a bad idea? How do you know when it's okay to waive contingencies and when it's a bad idea? Okay, that's a good question. And this is what was happening during pandemic. Like when the pandemic struck in 2020 and people were making offers, many people were waiving all their contingencies. And me personally, I'm going to advise you, I don't ever suggest waiving your contingencies. There's ways to writing a contract in which you can still get what you want, but at the same time, not waiving contingencies. People waive contingency. Let me give you an example. There was someone who waived the home inspection contingency. They wanted the house that bad because it was multiple offers and they had to go up on the price. When they ended up getting the home, they found out after they purchased the home that the electrical wiring had a lot of issues going on in their house. So when they would plug in the microwave, it blew. They plugged in the TV, it blew. And this is because they accepted the home as is. And there's nothing wrong with accepting the home as is, but I strongly always recommend still getting an inspection. I don't suggest waiving contingencies at all because contingencies are put in place to protect the buyer. The only time I would say it's okay is if that buyer really, 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 really wants that home against any and everything. They don't care if it has issues. They don't care what the neighborhood is. They don't care. It might be a home that they were raised in, something to that effect. So they just want to get that family property back. On situations like that, that's different. But in other words, in other terms, as a professional, I don't ever recommend waiving your contingencies because as a buyer, remember the contingencies are put in place to protect you as the buyer. Even though I know back then during the pandemic, there were agents who would say, oh, waive this, waive that. That's them. I still was selling houses doing that. And trust me, I wrote up contracts in a way to still protect my buyers. And at the same time, the sellers did what they wanted to do. So as a professional, I don't ever recommend waiving contingencies because when you waive contingencies, you are waiving your rights, period. And that's what not, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to inherit something and you don't know exactly what you are inheriting. So that's my recommendation. All right, let me see if I have any more questions. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on. Okay. All right. So that's my Q&A for today. And let me come back with my topic of the day. Stay right there. All right, y'all. If y'all not follow me on all platforms, please make sure you do on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok. You don't stop, and YouTube. All right. So right now, I'm going to go into my topic. My topic is M3. I've started this new series on Mondays called M3, Men's Message Monday. The reason why I started this is because holding conversations with a lot of men, young men, older men, and also with a lot of women, I just feel like sometimes message needs to be heard and it needs to be heard from a man, especially a man who's been in certain situations. I've been in many situations. I don't, through the grace of God, I don't look like what I've been through, but I've been through a lot, you all. If you all know my story, you will understand. You will understand my glory. So I just say that to say that I want people to start checking out my platforms, my Instagram, my TikTok. I post them on there. The topic I'm going to talk about on Monday, I think a lot of men need to get out their own way. I feel like a lot of men sometimes are in their own way. I feel like a lot of men who are raised in a household where there is no father sometimes do things based off their emotions, and emotions are not good. Emotions are temporary. Emotions come like the weather. Like right now, it is raining in the Washington, D.C. area. Guess what? It's going to be sunny and warm a couple of days or next week. Same thing goes with your emotions. But the decisions that you make when you are emotional can affect you forever. And I also just want to talk about some things that as men, we don't hold each other accountable to an extent when it pertains to a lot of things that goes on. So my topic is to bring awareness. My topic is to make men think. My topic is to, I don't really care how you feel as a man because I was raised by men. You know what I'm saying? I was raised by my father and my brothers. I'm very nice to women, just like when you'll see me doing things with my mother, my daughters, because I'm very sensitive and emotional towards females, especially because of what my mother went through. but I was raised by men. So a lot of times I really don't care how a man feel about anything, but I'm very sensitive to how females feel, especially the ones that are my family and the ones that treat me well. But outside of that, when it pertains to men, I feel like a lot of men are egotistical, prideful, arrogant, and a lot of them are manipulators and things to that nature. There needs to bring some awareness brought to all of this, especially by another man. I feel like, why not me? Because there's some things I say to men, I don't care how they feel, young, old, or indifference. Because again, as you get older, when no one says anything to people, and this goes for all people, people tend to get away with things. They think it's all right. And sometimes it's all right, and sometimes it's not. But sometimes awareness needs to be brought to make people think. If you don't make people think, people don't grow. If people don't grow, people don't evolve. If they don't evolve, they stay stuck where they are. That's why you can look at certain people and they are of a certain age, but they're still immature. A lot of times they're immature is because they've been traumatized at a certain place. There's no growth, there's no learning, or there's been no accountability to where they think what they're doing is okay. Well, guess what? There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Damon the Agent. So I'm gonna bring accountability to all you men out there, and I don't care, because I know how to squabble up, but I'm too old for that. So it's not about that. It's really about making you aware to help you become a better person. Because the one thing I know about all of us, we all can improve on who we are. We all can be a better person if we want to be a better person. Nobody's perfect, but guess what? When you make the effort, everybody's worth it. So I just wanted to share that. Please check out my platforms and my M3s on Mondays. I'm going to start putting them on YouTube as well, but they're on Mondays, M3, Men's Message Monday. And I want you ladies to please share it with a man in your life. If you all haven't checked out what I've already posted, go back. I've been posting the last 3 Mondays, and this is going to go on every Monday. And then I'm going to have like I'm doing my podcast right now, I'm going to have a forum of men, and we're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about everything, not just relationships, because a lot of these topics are solely on relationship, but what people go through. I know for a fact a lot of men suffer in silence. And what I mean by that is a lot of men go through things. They don't talk. They don't vent. They don't say things to people. It comes out of them in a form of aggression and sometimes depression. It comes out of them some way, somehow. So all I'm saying is we all need somebody to be real with us, to, be there for us. And so this is what I'm going to be working on as a project for myself. I'm a man who wears many hats, so I'm doing a lot of things, but I am working on getting a men's forum, men's group, all these things, so we can all work to become a better person for our loved ones, meaning for our parents, for our children, for your spouses, for whomever. We all need to be a better person. So these are some things I'm working on, but I've already started my series, Men's Message Monday, M3. Ladies, please check it out. Share it with all the men in your life, especially if I talk about a topic that you feel like they can resonate with. And this is not to attack anyone. We're all human. We all go through things. But again, my messages are just general message. They're not about anyone specific. But if you feel like the shoe fits you, then so be it. Because that's just like, as a man, if I see a woman post all men are dogs, I've never been offended. Never. You know why? Because I ain't no dog. So I don't care. But I've noticed sometimes if I posted and commented on something, some people get offended. And I feel like they get offended because the shoe fits them. Like an old saying goes, a hit dog will holler. Woof, woof. And that goes to all the people who be hollering when you make a comment. So again, when you see my messages, don't take it personal unless it fits you. And if it does fit you, do some self-evaluations on how you could become a better person, especially a better man, because we all need to become better for our family, for your own self, whether it's your mental health or whether it's your physical health. We all need to become a better person. The thing about it is we don't like to be held accountable. See, the one thing I found out that goes on in the black community, we got the 4 Ds, okay? We're either delusional, defensive, deflective, or in denial. That's how we are. Somebody tell you the truth, you'll say, oh, that's your opinion. But some things ain't opinion. They facts. Especially when people say it more than once. It's the truth. But unfortunately, we can't take accountability, and that's why we don't grow. That's why we stuck wherever we are. If you want to get further in life and grow further and go further, you got to learn to accept corrected criticism. And it's not always correct, and it's not always criticism. Sometimes it just needs to be correction made. And when you're not corrected, guess what? You got the life that you live. And if you're happy with your life, so be it. But there's important times that nobody's happy with their life. And that's the moment when you need to really do some self-reflection on who you are and what you want to be and what you want your legacy to be. Because a lot of times when people pass away, as all of us will at some point in time, we look and we see, and then we start thinking about the relationship we had with that person. What is their legacy? What will be your legacy when you pass? You should want, at least in your family, it be a good legacy about you. Just like we all know, most people don't know who their grandfather is, who their great grandfather is. Some people don't even know who their father is. We got to change that. We got to leave a legacy to where our great great grandkids know who we are. Because if we don't, guess what? You're going to be forgotten the next generation if you're not already. Your kids may not know who you are. Your grandkids may not know who you are. And that's not a good way to be. We didn't get put on this earth just to be an afterthought or a nothing. We got put here for a reason. And part of the reason is to be impactful. So one of the things that I'm going to do that's going to be impactful is I'm going to hold all you men accountable as far as everything from A to Z. Accountable as far as being a better father, accountable as being a better partner, accountable as far as being a better man, being better to yourself. A lot of you are not even good to yourself. You don't take care of yourself. You don't brush your teeth. You don't brush your tongue, breath stinking you in people's face. You ain't taking showers. You wonder why people turn their nose up and walk away. Yeah, that's you smelling like onions. And I'm just saying right now that we all need to be held accountable. Then when it pertains to mental health, all of us know we need mental health, because every man has contemplated doing some damage to someone or even to themselves. Every man has thought that. And some men have acted on their thoughts and emotions. But if we don't learn to check ourselves and to get the proper help, we're destined for doom. And I'm trying to make sure that we don't. I'm trying to hopefully help someone, help some people, for all of us to become better, because we all can be better in some way, some form, and somehow. So, M3, Men's Message Monday. Please make sure that you check it out, share it. If you haven't seen my post, go back on the Mondays, the past 3 Mondays. Every Monday, Men's Message Monday will be posted in the morning before 12 noon. Now, I'm going to do a quick recap. Be right back. All right, y'all. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me. Please follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Now, the recap for today is the future of the real estate. People are saying, oh, is the housing market going to crash? No time soon. The next 3 to 6 months, no. It may slow down in some areas, but it's still booming out there, y'all. Whether y'all realize or not, people are still buying. Go out there and look on the highway. That's what I want all y'all to do. Look on the highway. See all them cars driving and moving? Zoom, 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 zoom. That means people making moves in the world. And some of them are going to buy or sell a house. Yeah, while you still waiting for prices to go down, interest rates to go down. And guess what? Since you started waiting, prices have gone up. Interest rate gone up. So your monthly mortgage payment is not going to be lower unless you make a strategy to do so. So let's smarten up, y'all. And then I just talked about M3, which is Men's Message Monday. This is something that I started. My target for all men. I'm checking all of you all. On the basketball court too. I can check you there, and I'm going to check you in reality. This is my message to men. Hey, if you feel like it's a personal attack, then make a change. Like Michael Jackson said, starting with the man in the mirror. I ain't no singer, but you get the message. So I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining me. This has been Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Loud, with the Real Secrets of Money with your host, myself, Damon the Agent. Please check out my website, damontheagent.com, and your wealth agent, Damon. And I will join you all next Friday. You all have a great weekend. See you. Thank you as always.